Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in. My name's Chris Baroni. I'm the CEO and the chairman of the litigation committee for the Lake Lindero Homeowners Association and Country Club. And just wanted to give you guys a kind of a quick update on things going on here. But before I do, obviously, want to wish everybody a safe and healthy, next few days, weeks, and hopefully prior to this. I know that, obviously with, some of the quarantine and obviously, the social distancing has been a bit of a difficult time for many, but, just remember that we're, we're able to be at home and we're able to hopefully spend time with our families and still be able to Skype or FaceTime our friends. I mean, all in all, it's not that bad, obviously, but we want to clearly take it seriously. And on that note, if any one of you are sick and need help, feel free to reach out to myself or anybody in this neighborhood, because I know there isn't a single person in this neighborhood that wouldn't help somebody else out. So obviously you're not alone. You have next door neighbors, but if for any reason you need to, get in touch with somebody, please do. There's plenty of people here that will help. On that note, on a personal note, I had a couple questions regarding my health and all that good stuff. So I am better. I don't sound as better, but trust me, I'm a lot better than I was yesterday and over the course of the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to be really quick. There's nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. As far as I know, I was sick. There was a exposure to I call it the C virus, but by the time I was able to get to the doctor, it was around the 11th day from when we kind of pinpointed the exposure, and we then, of course, did a couple tests and other stuff, and then took a chest x-ray, and things came out good. So I got a few things they sent me for medication stuff to help me breathe. That was the odd part of this whole little thing, was the, I've had bronchitis before, but this was different in the sense that it was just a much tighter, stronger type feeling, but not the, I didn't feel that bad. So I did have the flu, I did have the cough, dry and not dry, and all of the symptoms that are associated. But when I did go to the doctor, of course, I had a call, and they called me back and told me to come in. They basically had just ran a few tests, like I said, did the x-ray and was fine. They did not do the test because it was 11 days past when we think it was potentially, contracted by myself. So that all being said, though, my kids are fine. My wife is fine. Josh, the attorney who sat next to me during at least a few of those days, is fine. And I'm happy about that. Okay, so on to the Homeowners Association. And just wanted to kind of give everybody a brief update on that, which is because the court shut down, we weren't able to hear from the judge regarding her decision in this matter, and that matter would be the first part, which is the for the validity of our election. Actually, it would be the recall first, and then if the election. So having said that, we may hear from her this week. To be honest with you, I don't know. I just know that it's nearly impossible for her or her staff to be getting anything done right now. There's a lot going on besides our case, before our case, and certainly more pressing matters that have happened with the court that I know of since our case. Other cases, but not, the court's, working double time. And so well aware of that, so please be patient. That being said, the other question I had was, why did it take so long? I don't know how long people thought it was going to take. I think the initial estimate was 2 to 3 days. Attorneys are notoriously bad for being able to make that determination, but I'm going to take this one off of the attorney's back for the most part, and not blame them. Certainly, there were a lot of things that had to happen in order for a real hearing to be had. It was an expedited hearing. An ex parte was filed and granted, and as probably some of you know, there was a judicial challenge that was timely and proper, and so we were able to keep the same time frame, but we were able to change who the judge was going to be in this case. And overall, I think the process was very it was a great process. It was an opportunity to learn a lot. It was an opportunity to most importantly present facts and information, because that's what's important in a case like this. Regardless, I don't, and I've said this before, is you want to make sure that the case that's heard is heard fairly. And oftentimes when an ex parte is filed, the plaintiffs in the case would have known far in advance that they were going to file it, and then we would have to react quickly to it without an attorney. So I'm not going to get into how was the Lakeland Arrow Homeowners Association brought into a lawsuit with Michael Allen and Harriet Cohen. Suffice to say that that can be addressed at another time. This wasn't the place for it. So once I hear, I'll certainly let everybody know. As far as the association goes, obviously the President Mike Human had canceled the meeting for this month because of the social distancing, the gathering, and then those things we want to take precaution on. The golf course was closed for about, I think it was close to 5 days after further review of what was going on at the golf course. It became very clear that there were dozens of golfers per day jumping onto the golf course and golfing anyway. Given the status of what's going on, given the need for there to be some sort of order and coordination, we have opened up the pro shop for one person. Now, when I say open up the pro shop, you're not allowed in it, of course, but we are making sure that there is distancing, that there's not a group like we saw before, too many people standing there and sitting around the greens. This is our property. We own it. It is belongs to the association, and as such needs to be taken care of and needs to be monitored, especially best we can out on the golf course, and ensuring that when people are there, they know that there's people that are going to be there making sure that things are done properly. So that opened up on Friday, I think late Friday, and then Saturday, and then of course today being Sunday, the 22nd of March. So that will continue. I did understand that there were at least a person who had wondered why it was open, because it can be. That's the answer. And we have, paperwork and documentation with regards to that, and I believe it's been posted for people to see. And so there's, your answer on the golf course stuff. And then I've gotten a few questions with regards to finances. The only thing I can tell you with regard to the finances is what I had been saying since probably November, December, which is we have imposters who are ensuring that the financials aren't getting out. And the people who are supporting of that are shockingly very quiet now. What I do know is that financially, there have been attempts, and I think they actually have taken money from the reserve account. Whether or not that was even done properly, we don't know. I think once the decision from the judge comes, that might clear up a few things. But, ideally, the process will be moving forward one way or the other. And the key in that is, why aren't the finances being sent out? And it's because of what I've said, and I'll say it again, is because Lordon management, with the help of the imposters, are misappropriating our funds and have been for quite some time. The idea that we would have, I guess, a security guard there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for reasons that are truthfully unknown. I don't know. Most of the time, I think, it's been questionable if they're even paying that much of attention. But regardless, they're having to be paid. And again, someone's having to pay for it, just like they, had to pay for the lawsuit they filed in I think, 8 or 9 days of having an attorney in court for 8 to 9 to 10 hours. It gets pretty expensive, but I want to at least make it clear that this coincides with exactly what I was saying, which is there's people who are pretending like they know what to do and planning, my guess, to dump it onto the association as the lazy way of proclaiming they did something work. So if that indeed ends up being the case, because again, they're hiding the financials, obviously there will be repercussion regardless of who's on the board, and that is the way it has to be, of course. So the last thing that I have as far as the club goes, as many of you know, the workers are still at the club, and they will be maintaining it throughout, because obviously the club's open, but also they're outdoors, and there's, I think, there's 4 of them, and clearly the maintenance needs to continue to get done. And we also have something called a state dam. And those of you that are familiar with license, I think it's 09110, we still have an obligation to monitor and watch the dam, especially during what would be considered, I believe, a state of emergency here, it was executed by the governor. So that being said, we will continue to monitor that as before, with a little bit more oversight on the dam. Obviously, there's no threats there, but because things are in a heightened state of alert, those things become more important. Our dam is a very tiny little thing, but regardless, it doesn't absolve us of our responsibilities there. So it'll continue to be monitored as before. That's really it. I did want to say thank you to those of you who had reached out, and really appreciate it. And honestly, I feel great. The family's great. And, no real issues as far as health or anything. And also, please, keep in mind that if there is a need for anybody here, that you have, you can reach out to myself. You can reach out to anybody who's on the board, obviously your neighbors. I don't want to make this a bigger deal than what it already is, but just remember, there's people here to help. And with all, BS aside, I know that everybody will be looking out for each other here for, at least a little while longer. Okay. That's it. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will send on over to the board some of the information that was posted up at the clubhouse, so you guys will have it on the Lakeland Arrow HOA website. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. Bye-bye.